கலைஞர் செய்திகள் நேயர்களுக்கு வணக்கம். இந்தியாவினுடைய மிக முக்கியமான அரசியல் நிகழ்வாக குடியரசுத் தலைவர் தேர்தல் நடைபெறவிருக்கிறது. எதிர்க்கட்சியினுடைய ஒட்டுமொத்த ஆதரவு பெற்ற வேட்பாளராக யஷ்வந்த் சின்ஹா நிறுத்தப்பட்டிருக்கிறார். இன்று நம்மோடு பகிர்ந்து கொள்வதற்காக யஷ்வந்த் சின்ஹா இணைந்திருக்கிறார். வணக்கம்.
Thank you.
First of all, congratulations for your presidential candidature from Tamil Nadu. How it feels to be here in Tamil Nadu to enjoy this political vicinity first of all, which is the state going to be poll more number of votes to you from the opposition side?
I am very familiar with Tamil Nadu and Chennai because I have been coming here very regularly.
Okay.
And I have lots of friends here, both in politics and in social life.
Okay.
So I am very happy to be here once again. I had a very, very useful meeting with the Chief Minister and his colleagues, and he made sure that all the parties of his coalition were present in that meeting. And we had a very good interaction. And just now I met all the Congress MLAs, district presidents. So this will also been a very good interaction.
Initially, there was different talks about the selection of opposition candidate for a presidential election. Different names were spelled out. Initially, there was different news that senior leaders are also hesitating to take the candidature from the opposition side. But taking this opportunity to be a presidential candidate of opposition parties, you must have some strong reason, both personally and politically, to take this opportunity. What is it actually?
I have more courage, maybe, and more conviction.
Okay.
I accepted the nomination because for me this is continuation of a struggle both against the wrong policies of the current government and its style of functioning.
But there is some criticism against you about the selection of your candidature for for the president post. That Yashwant Sinha is a former BJPian. How he could be the very right person of the opposites to be contest against the BJP's candidate, and the background context of the social background context of the Draupadi Murmu is also being like a question, and BJP is projecting Draupadi Murmu as a social justice symbol, and Yashwant Sinha cannot to be that kind of propaganda. How are you going to counterfeit it?
I am countering that propaganda as you said it. You rightly described it as propaganda. I am countering it with you today and with everyone else that I am meeting. This is not a battle of identities. It's not a question of who she is, where she comes from, and who am I, and where do I come from. Identities are immaterial. It's ideology which counts. And you mentioned about my BJP background. I have a BJP background, no doubt. It's a fact of history. But the BJP in which I served with Mr. Vajpayee and Mr. Advani was a very different BJP than the BJP of today. If I were to say that they are two different parties, that BJP was a different party, this BJP is a different party, then it will not be an exaggeration.
How you actually differentiate these two terms of either under the
I told you about the style of functioning. If Mr. Vajpayee as Prime Minister believed in functioning on the basis of consensus, the present Prime Minister believes in confrontation.
Okay.
He makes very little effort to build a consensus, and consensus is the soul of democracy. There is no democracy without consensus. Democracy is not only about numbers, it is about taking everyone along. And you take everyone along only when you build consensus. If you believe in confrontation, then you only take some people with you, not all the people. And therefore we are seeing those fissures in our society today because there is no attempt to take everyone along.
Basically, you are from an IAS background. You have an experience of 24 years of being and serving as an IAS. How do you see today's the bureaucracy that's been under the RSS and the BJP and government? And there are a lot of questions about the complete installation of RSS ideology into the bureaucracy of India. How do you see it?
I look at it with a great deal of concern because even when I was an IAS officer, in those days one was allowed to carry out the duties and responsibilities without interference. And today, that is not the case. Today, there are people who feel that if they toe the government line, they do things to please the powers that be, then they will prosper in service. So merit has become secondary, and your style of functioning in terms of doing what the government wants you to do is become the more important thing. It is not a good development for the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy in India will probably be destroyed if this continues.
In the same way about the bureaucracy, a lot of RSS background people tend to become the IAS officers or the civil servants of the India in the last past years. There are many data in showing that RSS background people are being cultivated to become the bureaucrats of India. And do you see that as a threat?
I see it as a very dangerous development because the bureaucracy is supposed to be totally apolitical. They are not supposed to belong to any political party. They are supposed to abide by the Constitution of India. They swear by the Constitution of India, and that is the guiding book for them. It is not any other organization, not even the government of the day. If the government of the day is not acting in a manner which is fair and legal, then it's a responsibility of the bureaucracy to point it out.
Recently, after the nomination, you have said in a recent interview that upcoming president of India should have thinking and speaking quality and not should be a rubber stamp president. But is that so right to think like right in that way? Because we have a constitution which says a president post is just an executive power and it's a glorified cipher. Is that right to be a president?
No, I don't think the president is a glorified cipher. I don't think that was the intention of the framers of our constitution. They created this post as the head of state, and there are defined responsibilities for the president within the framework of the constitution, and it is the responsibility of the president to in turn advise the government. The government, the council of ministers will advise the president, and the president will act on that advice. But given the dignity of that high office, it's also the responsibility of the president to advise the prime minister. That's why we have this system of prime minister going and meeting the president in Rashtrapati Bhavan and keeping him informed of what the government is doing. And it is the responsibility of the president to at times call the prime minister and talk to him about the affairs of state.
Because why I'm asking that question is even in the evening meeting that you had with Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Mr. MKStalin, you had said about the problems that are creating by the governors of the state governments, which have been installed by the BJP and the RSS background. Is that will be the right to president who is speaking very loudly or open?
No, I'm not. I never said the president speaking very loudly. When did I say that? I am saying the president can call the prime minister and tell him what he thinks is right, and that is a role that he must play. But it does not mean that he should act as an obstruction. It does not mean that there should be confrontation between the president and the prime minister. And my role model there is Pranab Mukherjee. Because Pranab Mukherjee was elected by the UPA government as president, then the NDA government came.
He served more terms in India.
And he was a copybook president. He was a very correct president, went strictly by how the president should behave, and therefore there was no confrontation, yet he played his role.
At the time of your going around India to gather your support for your presidential candidature, there are the two kind of things that being staged in the democracy. One side, for the first time I think in the history of presidential election, opposite candidate is being selected from the state party, a regional party. Is that you are the first person? I think so. Second thing is on the other side, a government from Maharashtra is falling down, and a rebel MLA, rebel faction is being elected as a chief minister. The two different things is being staged on the same time of the democracy. How do you?
What is happening in Maharashtra or what has happened in Maharashtra is highly immoral. It's highly undemocratic and should not have happened in a well-functioning democracy. But today, we don't have a properly functioning democracy in our country because the BJP government in the center is not prepared to tolerate anybody else in power. They only want either their own party in power or their dummies in power. And that is what we have witnessed in Maharashtra. So I will call it a disgrace for democracy in our country, considering what has happened in Maharashtra.
It's been widely told in the opposition circle that BJP has started the number game for presidential election and the distraction game for the presidential election little bit early. The Agnipath scheme that have been announced in very short term and continuously it has seen a lot of changes in the scheme of pattern also.
They always divert attention from important issues by doing something or the other, which then the Godi media will follow. And they will talk so loudly about it that people's attention will then be diverted from the more important issues.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.